I'm giving up beer for at least 30 days until this batch is done. I'm not crazy.
I just said, yes, man, right away, anything.
Today we're going to do a beer with some of the malt that I made in a previous video. If you haven't seen it, I'll put the link for it right up here. This is just a simple brown ale. Don't worry, I'm going to put the actual recipe down in the video description. Today we're just going to do some pale malt, some delicious Munich malt, some caramel malt, chocolate malt, and some special B. If you watch my video on doing the specialty malts, one of the malts that I did that was supposed to be a crystal malt, but it came out like obsidian black on the inside, that's moved to another category called Special B. I think that's a proprietary malt, but anyway, I accidentally made that. It's going to provide some dark fruits, some richness, some sweetness to the beer. Hops. I've got a ½ ounce of Willamette hops and a ¼ ounce of Goldings hops, and some Nottingham ale yeast that I've been building a nice colony with. This is only going to be a 2-gallon batch because I only have enough bottles to bottle like 7 gallons of beer. I really want to do like 2 or 3 more beers. I don't know if I can drink them fast enough to empty out the bottles in order to brew more beer. So I'm just doing 2-gallon batches, but feel free to scale this one up to make a 5-gallon or 20-liter batch. While I'm talking about the specialty malts, if you guys make your own specialty malts, tell me what you're making with them down in the comments section. I'd really like to know. So I still don't have a grain mill, and I bought one of those kind of hand crank Corona mills. I've had the thing for a couple of months and I haven't used it yet, and I just opened the package and I found this. Damn grinder plate is cracked in half. So, since I don't have that, I'm just going to stick all this stuff in my magic bullet and grind it up. It's going to be too fine. Just pay attention to the ingredients, and hopefully this will end up turning out good. I haven't brewed a beer in a really long time, so I'm looking forward to this. As my dad likes to say, by hook or by crook, I'm going to get it done. So let's get going. I just want to talk about why you should make your own specialty malts. One, it feels really good to know that you did it. And the chocolate malt, it's like coffee and chocolate, really. So make your own specialty malts. It's very rewarding, and hopefully it makes great beer. We'll find out. All right, so the beer is down to 1.006. As you can see, the beer is nice and dark, and when we hold it up against the light, it's got a super beautiful ruby color. It's hard to tell because it's so dark, but it's actually very clear. It smells like a brown ale. Yeah. Toasty, malty, nutty, biscuity, little chocolate, little coffee. This is pretty good. Okay, so this is done. We just gotta bottle it and wait another 2 weeks, and then we can taste it. So, if you know how to brew, then you know I forgot something. If you don't know how to brew, then let me explain. In order to get the beer in these bottles to carbonate, we have to have some sugar in there to get that to happen. So I was planning on putting some sugar into each of the bottles before I got the beer in there, but I forgot. So, let's do that now. This is kind of the old school way to do it, where you take a little bit of table sugar and you put it in each bottle, and that gives the yeast that's kind of hiding in suspension in the beer just enough food so that it can carbonate the bottle, and it gives you about a medium level of carbonation. If you're doing 12-ounce bottles, half a teaspoon of sugar. These are 16-ounce bottles. It's not quite 3/4 of a teaspoon. A little bit less than that, a little bit more than a half teaspoon is what we need for each bottle. Then we'll just close them back up. There's a little bit of concern that maybe your sugar is contaminated with some bacteria. Maybe your spoon or your bottles or whatever is contaminated with bacteria. That's the main reason why we use a bottling bucket, so that we can heat up that sugar water and sterilize it and put it into a sterile bottling bucket, and that keeps everything from getting contaminated. You know, we don't have that option right now, so this is what we're gonna do. So do your best, keep everything clean. Always make sure you have some spray on Star San sanitizer. I resprayed all these bottles. I'm gonna wash my hands really good, make sure everything I use is nice and sterile. That will do as much as we can to limit any potential infection. All right, let's get going. And because this is imperfect and now there's just dry sugar sitting around in there, you want to make sure you give it a little bit of a shaky shake to get that mixed up in there so that it can dissolve, because if sugar sits on the bottom of any container, even if you're doing a full-on fermentation and you just have a bunch of sugar sitting in the bottom of your fermenter, strong concentrations of sugar sitting still like that, they'll actually overwhelm and kill yeast. Don't just leave it to chance and think that it's gonna dissolve on its own, because sometimes it won't. See you in 2 weeks. I've been ready to taste this beer for a month, but before we get to that, I want to thank my patrons for contributing directly to this beer by buying the grain and suggesting the beer style, and for suggesting the types of specialty grains that I did. Thank you guys so much, because technically this beer wouldn't have been brewed without your support. So thank you very much. You got me beer. That's awesome. Incredibly thoughtful. If you want to consider supporting me on Patreon and get early access to what I do around here, go ahead and check out the link down in my video description. Okay, you ready? So, I don't know if you can see it in there. I've got a little bit of a cloudiness issue, a little bit of a haze, and that could be because I had to grind it in the Magic Bullet blender, and you get a lot of fine particulate that way, almost barley flour. And it could just be that I didn't do a protein rest, and I probably should have. If there's any like little pieces of the roots and shoots on your barley, those contain a lot more protein, and when you home malt barley, you're more likely to have that stuff on there because it's not machine winnowed, you're doing it all by hand. So you're a little bit more likely to have those proteins in there, and If you want to give it a protein rest, you're not going to do your normal strike water like you would. You're going to set your water at about 135, put your grain in, get it to about 129 and let it sit for at least a half an hour, and that'll help those proteins to get broken down so they're not going to create as much of a chill haze for you. But anyway, let's try this thing out. Yeah, that is a good brown ale. It's got good body to it, good mouthfeel. It's not as much head retention as I wanted, so I might have to tweak it a little bit. But the flavor is excellent. That kind of figgy, dark fruit flavor from the special B grain, that's in there right up front. You get a little bit of that kind of fruitiness in there, and the coffee, a little bit of dark chocolate, very malty, and a good toast note in there too. I dig this. Whew. Let's see if we can get a little color shot here. So you can see that dark amber ruby color in there, and the chill haze isn't too bad. I'm happy with that. There's a nice kind of nuttiness to it that's kind of showing up after a second. I like this. This is good. I would have to say that of the beers that I've brewed from my own recipes, this is the best one. I'm imagining probably some of you are wondering, well, did the specialty grains work out? Does it taste comparable to if I just go and buy the specialty grains myself? Yeah. I really can't pick out any difference. If I brewed this side by side with store-bought malts, other than having a slightly higher gravity and maybe no protein haze, I don't know that I would be able to tell the difference. You gotta finish it. Yep. I am very proud of this beer, and I highly recommend that you go ahead and try making some specialty malts, even if it's just one. Do a little pan of chocolate malt on the stovetop, or try a pound of crystal malt, something like that. Even if you're just throwing it into a whole bunch of store-bought malts, making it yourself, I think, gives you a deeper appreciation for what's in it and how those flavors are achieved. And then when you go to taste the beer, you're going to be able to pick out some of those flavors a lot better. And I think that's important. And it means that if we're ever in another lockdown, that you won't be without beer making supplies. It's a skill that you might want to collect. Alright, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If this entertained you for however long this video is, do me a favor and hit the like button, because it really helps out my channel. And if you're not subscribed, you probably should be. That way you never miss one of my videos. So hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon right next to it, and that way you'll get notified when I post a new video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down in the comments section down below. Alright, thanks for watching. Talk at you later.